everybody? Oh, it does work now. Excellent. Thank you guys so much for having me. And actually, since that bio got written, we are going to have a grandbaby too. So we are super excited about that. But as mentioned, this was not a thing that I thought I was going to be doing, talking about working for a pro-life ministry or pro-love ministry, as we like to call it at Embrace Grace. But God clearly had other plans for this season. And so it has been really, my husband always says that the work that he does and his job is not really important. The work that we all get to do in the pro-life ministry is what's really important, what's really changing lives. So I'm super grateful for what he does so that I can do what I get to do here with Embrace Grace. So we're going to jump into my slides. I'm going to tell you about Embrace Grace, and I'm really excited because a lot of you guys we already partner with. So it was neat to see and get to meet some of you all already, but to find out that we were going to be talking to centers and organizations and even church partners that host Embrace Grace groups already. So I'm just going to give you a little bit more about the heart of Embrace Grace. I'm going to talk about the mission and vision and why we actually exist. We can go to the next slide. So who are we? So we really exist so that we can, when a woman is experiencing an unexpected pregnancy, that we will be able to walk with her through that unsteady season. We want to make sure that as they're navigating that season, young women, young men who are coming into fatherhood for the first time and their families feel supported and connected to the body of Christ. So we are going to make sure that they have a judgment-free support group to go to within a local church. So that's what Embrace Grace is. The next slide. So Embrace Grace has support groups throughout the country and actually throughout the world. We have over 1,149 support groups in all 50 states and 8 countries, and actually I think it's 7 countries now. But nonetheless, we're kind of everywhere, and I meet people every day who still have never heard of Embrace Grace, or maybe they've heard a little bit about Embrace Grace and don't know exactly what we do. So our mission is to equip the church to love on single and pregnant women. We want to do that by inspiring them to host small groups. And our vision is that every young woman who is experiencing an unplanned pregnancy has a local church to go to for support. We would like for the church to be the first place that she runs to and not the last place that she would ever consider going. So our next slide is just, again, talking about Embrace Grace and all of you getting to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And this is just another map to show where we are. So the green dots are all of our Embrace Grace groups. Our orange dots are Embrace Life groups. And then the black dots on the map are Embrace Legacy groups. And I'll get more into exactly what we do. So the next one. So what we like to say around Embrace Grace is that pro-life is a stance, but pro-love is an action. So we want to be known for what it is that we do and how we love. So yes, it is very important for us to have a pro-life stance. It's very important for us to vote for pro-life initiatives. But it really is more important that we love these women in this season, that we show what we're for and not just what we're against. So again, we have it on t-shirts. I'm wearing a pro-love t-shirt. We kind of have it every way, but we want to change the narrative about what it is that all of us in this room are doing. So the next slide. This is the Embrace Grace model and what it actually looks like. So I always like to say that our pregnancy resource partners are really like the emergency room. And so a girl woman is going to experience an unplanned pregnancy, and she is going to come and see you guys at her local pregnancy resource center. You guys are going to gift her a love box, which I'm going to talk to you about a little bit more in a bit. And then that love box serves as an invitation for her to join her local Embrace Grace group. In that Embrace Grace group, we're going to do several things, which I'll get into in a minute, but one of those things is host a baby shower for her. In many instances, that woman is going to receive salvation, and what that means is that she is going to raise that baby in the church, in a church family, and that generations are going to be changed, and that's what we need to be caring about. The next slide. So how do we do that? Embrace Grace does that through 3 kinds of support groups. Embrace Grace, which is 12 weeks, Embrace Life, which is 20 weeks, and Embrace Legacy. And then I'll get more into each one. So, Embrace Grace is a 12-week support group. There is a video curriculum that goes along, so it's very simple, it's very plug and play. It is not hard to be a champion and want to start that. So it's 12 weeks. We are a ministry, we're going to present the gospel to them, but what we're really trying to work on is helping them understand their identity. In many instances, as you know, these women are walking around and they are in situations where they are trying to fill holes. They feel, I always just say they have a God-sized hole in their heart that they are running around trying to fill up with all kinds of other things. And none of those things are filling up the hole. So we want to talk to them about where their identity should be found, how the Lord sees them. Again, the gospel is presented to them, but there's a video curriculum. They're going to hear a testimony from other women who have walked through an unexpected pregnancy, that have gone through an Embrace Grace group, and we want to meet their needs not just practically, we want to meet their needs spiritually. So we meet their needs spiritually through the class itself, and then we meet their needs practically by hosting a baby shower. Many of those women who show up have never stepped foot in a church. Many of those women who show up are not Christians. A lot of those women who show up tell me or will say, I am a Wiccan, I'm Muslim, and we say, come on, because that still gives us the opportunity to plant seeds. And we may not see what happens with that seed, but we know that the Lord says the word does not return void. So even if somebody else is watering and tilling that soil, a seed still has been planted. So the next slide, we're going to talk about Embrace Life. So Embrace Grace is for single and pregnant mamas. Embrace Life is for single moms. So there may be moms who have walked through Embrace Grace already. They've already gone through the Embrace Grace program, but there are plenty of clients, especially in your pregnancy center, that you see who've long since had a baby, and maybe they're back again. So they have an opportunity to either A, go to Embrace Grace if they happen to be pregnant, or go to Embrace Life. And in the case where you've had a client who maybe has had their baby and has just missed an Embrace Grace group, they are more than welcome, even if they are postpartum up to 6 months, to come to the Embrace Grace group. That said, Embrace Life, we're going to talk about some different topics. We are going to build on what we've already talked to them about in Embrace Grace, but we also are helping them understand that they can have their baby in their dreams too. Their life is not over, and while they were maybe surprised by that unexpected experience, God was not shocked or alarmed or unprepared for what happened. And so they don't have to stop dreaming. They don't have to stop thinking about what the future holds. And nobody's saying that that is going to be easy. That's still going to be challenging, but it can be done. And we get to see day after day, hear story after story, miracle after miracle of mamas who are going on to get their degrees, mamas who are going on to get married, mamas who have placed their baby for adoption, but they still end up married and still end up in their babies' lives. So we just see too many stories of God has been so gracious and so good to these girls that we get to keep going. So it's absolutely inspiring to continue on in what we get to do. So 21 weeks, we are going to talk to them about healthy boundaries. How do you healthily co-parent with your baby's father? How do you set healthy boundaries for unhealthy people who may be in your life that you don't need to be spending a lot of time with, but you can't figure out how to set some kind of boundaries for what those relationships are? How do you continue to plan for your future? What is it that you need to do? So we're, again, building on some of the messages in Embrace Grace, but we want them to go further than what we've just taught them in Embrace Grace. And then the next slide is about Embrace Legacy. And so what was happening with Embrace Grace is that we had girls whose boyfriends were bringing them to church and dropping them off and going to sit in the lobby or in the parking lot. And they're part two, or the second half of the equation of how a girl ended up in Embrace Grace to begin with. So nobody was talking to them, and what we were discovering is in the same way that these women are trying to fill a God-sized hole, these men, young men, are doing the exact same thing, and they need men to come alongside them and support them and guide and disciple them in the same way that is happening with the women. And so we launched Embrace Legacy. I think it's been 2 years now. And so Embrace Legacy is a video curriculum in the same way that Embrace Grace and Embrace Life are. It's 11 weeks for Embrace Legacy, but it's created by a man. The video content is a man doing the teaching, and it's testimonies of men who were the baby daddies, some cases now husbands, of those girls that have gone through Embrace Grace previously. So we want that program to be for a young man whose girlfriend is pregnant, or a young man who is in a situation of deciding that he's going to step in and take on the role of being a father, because we've got plenty of instances of when that has happened as well successfully. But we want to equip them, we want to train them, we want to introduce the gospel to them, we want to understand where they need to be relying on, and where their strength is to come from, but also how to step into that role that's in front of them in that season. Next. Okay, I get to tell you about the Love Box, one of my favorite parts. So Embrace Grace groups are how we partner with the local church. And then the way that we partner with pregnancy resource centers and pregnancy help organizations is through the Love Box. And I'm just going to go through all of the pieces in the Love Box because I think they're really important to sort of emphasize how it works and why it's important. So for pregnancy resource centers, Embrace Grace Love Boxes serve as an invitation for them to join their local Embrace Grace group. And I will say here in Jackson and really in Mississippi, generally speaking, you guys have done a fantastic job. We have loads of Embrace Grace groups. And I don't say that to say that we don't need more, because we do need more. We want there to be an Embrace Grace group really in less than a 30-mile radius within a girl to be able to get to. Sometimes there's not public transportation. Sometimes I live in Dallas-Fort Worth, and everything is more than 30 miles away. Period, the end. We drive a lot, we drive far. So I don't think very much about it, but I have the ability to get to where I need to go. I have a vehicle, I have the means to purchase gas, all of those things that I'm not thinking about on a daily basis, maybe a young woman is likely thinking about and doesn't have a solution for. So the more churches, the better. So the first thing that young woman is going to see when they open their box is an invitation that says you're invited. And we want them to know that they are invited to a group. We're telling them that we're going to host a baby shower for them. For some women, even if it's not their first child, they've never had anybody throw a baby shower for them. They've never had anybody extend that kind of love and support to them. So that's a huge, big deal. But it also gives them 2 testimonies of women who have walked through a season of unplanned pregnancy. One of those women chose to parent, and one of those mamas chose to place her baby for adoption. So that's the first thing they see when they open it up. If they scan the QR code on the back, then that's going to put them into our system, and we have a Brave Girl coordinator who actually reaches out to every woman who scans the QR code. She sends them a free gift, but not only does she send them a free gift, she often ends up texting with them, having phone calls with them. A couple of weeks ago, she was talking to a young woman who was pregnant, didn't want to be pregnant. She was in a shelter with her other child, and she was already had an abortion appointment. So Susanna talk to her for more than a week. And we always know that if the girl keeps reaching out, even though she's telling us she has an abortion appointment, she doesn't want to make that decision. So she just talks to them until and we're all praying in the meantime that she'll change her mind, that she'll be able to make a life decision. But there's one-on-one contact with somebody who's going to reach out to your client once they get that love box and they scan that QR code. There is a personal handwritten note of encouragement. People all over the country, dare I say the world, write notes to these young women. I will tell you that we do screen all of those letters because people write very odd things occasionally. So we have a very entertaining discard pile of letters that never make it into an Embrace Grace love box. But we want that mama to know that she can do it. She can choose life. She is equipped. God did not give us the ability to birth babies and not the ability to parent those babies. So people will come alongside her. People will walk with her. We can get her plugged into a situation where that's going to happen. There's a journal for her to process and write down anything she might be needing to walk out or write out at the moment. I always say a love box is also a pause, because oftentimes a woman has decided that an abortion is the solution to her problem. The world has told her it's the solution to her problem. It's the fastest way to get to the solution of a problem. Her boyfriend, her grandmother, her mother, friends all around her are telling her an abortion is her only option. Sometimes she needs a pause. So I always say that this box is a moment for this mama to get with her, to get with God, and be still, and maybe there's a different decision that she can make or a voice that she'll hear. We have heard so many times that this box does different things for different people. And so the next item in here is the onesie, which is actually my favorite part because it says best gift ever. And for some, a baby is the best gift ever, even if there is a circumstance, unimaginable circumstances, but sometimes God gives you a baby to save your life. We just, again, I've heard it too many times. Sometimes he does give you a baby to save your life. The next item in the box is a book called A Bump in Life. And so A Bump in Life is actually our founder, Amy Ford's story of walking through a season of unplanned pregnancy, unexpected pregnancy, and what happened. And in her instance, she and her baby daddy had an abortion scheduled. They went to that appointment, and she was so worked up emotionally that she passed out in the procedure room. By the grace of God, there was a nurse who, when she came to, said, "You're too mentally distraught to make this decision today. You're not having an abortion. You're going home." And too many of you all know that that doesn't happen. But that young man is graduated high school, that young man has graduated college, he's now married, and he's about to be a daddy as well. So again, generations changed. One decision, somebody making a decision changes everything. So that's what the love box is. The love boxes are intended, the goal is to obviously save babies, but sometimes, as I stated, babies save mamas and families too. So we want a young woman to receive an invitation to join a local church where she is going to get not just spiritual assistance, but she's going to be able to get tangible assistance through the baby shower as well. But we want more than that, for that church to come alongside her, wrap their arms around her, and love and support and walk with her through this season, because that is what we're called to do as the church. We had a conversation. I was talking to Amy last week. Amy goes and speaks, Amy Ford, our founder, goes and speaks at conferences all over the place, all of the time. And she was telling me a story last week, actually, about a pregnancy. She went to speak at a conference, and I can't remember, I know where she was, Tucson, Arizona. And she told me that a woman walked up to her after she spoke, and she said, "Yeah, I've heard about Embrace Grace. But I talked to my pastor and my church, and we pretty much decided that Embrace Grace is condoning sin by giving a baby shower to a woman in a season of unplanned pregnancy. But what if God said to all of us, all of us have sinned and fall short of the glory of God? What if he said to us, you know what, you're still doing that sin thing, you're still walking in that sin, so you know what, I have to wait until you walk away from that before I'm going to come around and forgive you or support you. That's not what the Lord does. And the Bible said it's God's kindness that leads us to repentance in Romans 4. So if the church won't extend kindness, who's going to extend kindness? The world isn't going to extend kindness. The world lies to them every day about what is really happening in their bodies. So if the church is going to turn their back on them, there isn't anybody else who's going to come alongside them and support them and tell them the truth and help them. So we need to be the church that's not walking around in judgment. And nobody's saying that it's okay. Everybody is clear about the fact that the Bible says sex is something that happens within the confines of biblical marriage. We're all clear about that, but we're also clear about the fact that we very much live in a fallen world, and therefore, those circumstances or instances are going to happen. And there's not anybody who's sitting in that woman's church who is sinless, the pastor included, not one person. So the idea that they would then decide that the women in their community aren't worthy of the gospel, aren't worthy of being told the truth, that is not love. There's nothing loving about that. So unfortunately, in 2024, I can tell you, we still hear from churches that can't wrap their arms around Embrace Grace, or the idea of grace, or the idea of forgiveness. I can say that Jackson is not one of those places, because we're filled with churches here in Jackson and the surrounding Mississippi area that disagree with that. So thank you guys. So, how does the Pregnancy Resource Center receive love boxes? So fortunately, these love boxes are actually donor funded, and so they don't actually cost the center any money to actually receive love boxes. Once you have an Embrace Grace group within a 30-mile radius, we would love to partner and connect with you if we are not already, and get you free love boxes. The only thing that we do ask is that the center pay the cost of shipping for those boxes. If for some reason it's not within your budget, you can't afford to pay the cost of shipping, Embrace Grace does have scholarships and will take care of the cost of shipping. Don't allow the cost of shipping, effectively $30-ish a month, to be your barrier to not support your local community and the women in your community by giving them an invitation to join Embrace Grace. So if you have a church, amazing, and like I said, I know a lot of you guys do, but I also know that there are centers that still don't have local churches in their community. We have a whole team back at home called a group development department, and all they do is talk to churches, pastors, women, men who are interested in getting Embrace Grace into their local church. They walk them through the entire process, explain what it is exactly that they need to do that, and they also will work with them to get started. So the website, Pro Love Center, number one, if you're a pregnancy center who's not partnered with Embrace Grace, we would love to hear from you, and the easiest way to do that is to go to prolovecenter.com. If you are a pregnancy center that does not have a local church in your area, and I guess I should back up and tell you the way to find out if you have a local Embrace Grace group in your area. Number one, you can stop by our table, we have a list. Number two, you can always go to embracegrace.com and put in your zip code, and it'll show you the churches, the times, the days that they meet, the times, location, and the name of the group leader. And then if you don't have a church in your area, if you would go to prolovechurch.com, you can have a local church in your community sign up to get information and have somebody walk them through the process of getting an Embrace Grace group started. So I like to say that Embrace Grace operates sort of as the bridge between pregnancy help organizations and the local church. And the next slide is, what are the benefits of partnering with your local church? You can go to the next one. So the benefits for moms are church introduction. Like I said, there are plenty of women who went to church as a kid and maybe they don't even remember that they've been in church, but it's been so long. So we want to introduce moms to churches. We want them to have a soft landing into that body. Community, oh no, you can go back. Community and belonging and spiritual transformation. So these are some of the benefits that you can expect to see from your clients. And I will say, as far as the benefits to the clients, we have a 78% salvation rate of the women who come through Embrace Grace. I know that a lot of you guys at pregnancy centers are presenting the gospel to your clients. But I also know that I have plenty of pregnancy centers saying, well, once we present the gospel to the clients, what do we do then? We need to, yes, we want them, but we have to have the ability to get them into a body so that they can be discipled, so that they can have people come alongside them. Because otherwise you're just sending them back to the bad situation that they're already in. And it's one thing to be a Christian and be able to lock arms with other brothers and sisters in Christ. And it's another thing entirely to be fighting that all by yourself when you're already in a tough situation. So we definitely need people to come alongside them. So benefits for pregnancy resource centers, we want you to have a safe place to send your clients to be discipled. Every church that partners with Embrace Grace, every church signs an agreement saying that they are going to be a safe place for your client to come to. They are not going to be shamed. They are not going to be gossiped about. They are going to be extended, unconditional love and support. That church is agreeing to meet those women wherever they are, whatever that situation looks like, and you all know that some of those situations are pretty ugly. So we want church partners that are willing and able to say, I can meet you where you are, no questions asked, and I'm going to walk this out with you. The other thing that you get is a stronger partnership with your local church. So we have instances where we talk to people all of the time. I talk to people all of the time, that don't know what a pregnancy center is. I talk to people all of the time that attend a local church regularly and have no idea what a pregnancy resource center is. In Dallas-Fort Worth, we have roughly 30 to 40 pregnancy centers in our area. We meet people all the time because you can come in and volunteer your time at Embrace Grace to actually build love boxes and take a tour and find out more about what we're about. But I can't tell you the number of people that I've met who don't know that they have a pregnancy center around the corner from them. They've never been into one. They have no idea the vital work that you all are actually doing. They just don't know. So even though you may have a church that's actually financially supporting you, we want you to have a church body that is supporting your center, whether it is through donation, whether it is through volunteering, and also because of the fact that you have churches that are full of women who are post-abortive, who have walked through a season of unexpected pregnancy themselves, we know once they hear the message and they understand what they can do, that they will jump in. I can't tell you how many group leaders in Embrace Grace are post-abortive or have walked through a season of unexpected pregnancy. I can't tell you that they're never going to say that in church, because church is not a safe place for that to be said in many instances. So they're not telling anybody, but they're sitting in those pews and they are completely unheard. And they can be utilized because they would have loved to have had an Embrace Grace to confront them in their situation, in their time of need. They would have loved to have somebody come alongside them and walk with them. So the church is ripe if we'll tell them what we do, for people to come in and stand up and do something. So that's the benefit. We just want to we are the biggest supporter of pregnancy resource centers. One of the first things that we tell our group leaders is make sure that you go and introduce yourself to your local pregnancy resource center. Make sure that they understand where your group is, when it meets, what your church is, and get involved in that pregnancy center. Because you all know something that these group leaders don't know. A lot of these women I live in a suburban bubble too. We all live in our own little bubbles. And they don't know what they don't know. So they're not encountering the hard stuff that you guys see every day. And sometimes when we have women or group leaders who don't know really what's going on out in the world, I'll just say it that way, when they get a girl in their group and they say, well, she's pregnant, but she has a 12-month-old. Yeah. She's pregnant, but she says she's a lesbian. Yeah. This is real life things that are happening that they don't realize that are happening. They think those things are happening on the news out there, but not happening in their backyard. So when they're confronted with these things, if they can get with you and connect with you, and you can tell them what you see and what's going on in their community, that makes them better leaders. So I think it gives you an opportunity, A, to continue to spread the word about what you're doing, but also to educate the women who have stepped up and said they're going to be advocates and group leaders for these women and walk with them, but it gives them the opportunity to even know what to expect. And we prepare them, but sometimes we're unprepared for the story that we get on the other end. So, I think we need to go back one. Another one, go back. Okay, benefits to the church. So the church has a job to present the gospel. The church has a disciple to disciple the people. So another benefit is that they have the opportunity through this Embrace Grace group that they're hosting to disciple clients. The church has the opportunity to see hearts changed and people softened. They also have the opportunity to be witness to the freedom that these women receive and the overcomers that they become. So how do you go about building that church relationship? Next one. So some of the ways that I recommend, so I'll just go back to what I said. A lot of people have no idea what's happening in pregnancy resource centers. Amy always says, I grew up in church my whole life, had no idea that pregnancy resource centers existed, and when I experienced an unplanned pregnancy, the first place she called was Planned Parenthood, not a pregnancy center, because she didn't know. And in Amy and I's generation, that's all we heard about was Planned Parenthood. If you had, you could go for birth control, you could go for all of these things, but we never heard about a pregnancy center, and we certainly wouldn't have heard about said pregnancy center in our church, because the church is busy trying not to talk about sex at all, which is another discussion for another day. But if they're not talking about it, it's not because it's not happening, obviously. So even that, maybe we have to start to take a different tact on that. But we encourage you to visit your local church. We encourage you to meet with your pastors. I always try to say, don't show up without a treat. So sometimes I'll show up to pregnancy centers with lots of treats, because who doesn't like a sweet cookie? Or do you guys have crumble cookies here? Yeah, we show up with crumble a lot. And love is returned to us often at the office, which is not always a great thing. But show up with a treat and ask a pastor if you can come and speak at their staff meeting. And in exchange for that, maybe you bring them lunch, and then you get to tell them exactly what your center does. Because it's not even enough that the pastor knows what you do. It needs to be that the whole staff knows what you do. It needs to be that that starts to infiltrate the body, so the body knows what you do. So, do that. What does that say? Serve and honor, yes. Serve and honor. So, a lot of times, pastors are being called on to do something, this is an opportunity for you to go to a pastor and maybe not even be asking for anything, but you're actually going to tell the pastor that you're going to do something for him and his staff. How about building relationships with their team, which I said sponsor a luncheon, sponsor a evangelism training. What if, and probably this is something that already happens in many of your centers, but if you have a pastor or a church, come and train your volunteers and your staff about evangelism. That, again, is something that's helpful. It helps the church continue their mission. And then provide outreach opportunities. And one of the ways that you can do that is through something called the Share the Love with Embrace Grace. So Embrace Grace ships these love boxes to Pregnancy Resource centers already assembled. However, as I mentioned, we have volunteers that come to our office and build them all of the time. And so we do have the ability to ship those love boxes unassembled. It's an excellent community support initiative that allows people to come together, build the boxes, and then they get donated back to the local Pregnancy Resource Center. But what's good about that is that you're introducing people to your center. You have an outreach. I know churches call and ask centers all of the time, what can we do? How can we help? This is something that they can do. This is how they can help. But it also gives you the opportunity to have a captive audience to tell them whatever you need to tell them about your local center that maybe they don't already know. So that's another opportunity there. And then on the next slide, we're going to talk about strengthening those relationships with churches. So always follow up. If you reach out to them, pastors are super busy, and usually in churches there's several layers of pastors, and trying to get to the right pastor that can actually make the decision can be a challenge. So whether it's your missions pastor, whether it's the women's leader or pastor, whatever that is, sometimes it's the first lady, pastor's wife, that you need to get to, because again, it's about getting what's happening in pro-life out of their heads, and the thought that this is a political issue that is not really something that they need to deal with, to a heart issue. Another thing I say is, yes, it's political. However, there are policies behind those politics, and there are people that those policies are going to impact. So ultimately, it's still about the people. So this still isn't, pro-life isn't an off the topic or non-touchable topic for churches. There are people behind everything that's happening, and that's what the church is about. So make sure that pastors know that they're welcome at your center. Ask them to take part in your gala. Maybe they bring the prayer for your gala events, luncheons, whatever your fundraising galas are for the year, or initiatives are for the year. Again, what if for Sanctity of Life Sunday, your center sets up a table in the lobby, you have minutes to present, some time to present to your local church what your center is doing. Again, we want to give people as much information as possible and the ability to have something to do. What can we do? And then lastly, it would be even fantastic if, when that church starts up an Embrace Grace group, it can be part, and some of you guys have Earn While You Learn programs, so what if Embrace Grace was part of your Earn While You Learn? So I know that sometimes people say, girls won't show up to church. I think it was Sherry who said earlier that yes, they will show up to church, but sometimes you have to incentivize them to do so. But really, it's just about education and making sure everybody knows what you're doing, making sure they understand that they do have an opportunity to serve and support, and this is something that they can do. Next slide. I think it's questions. Anybody have any questions? Well, that was easy. Yeah, thank you. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you guys is, together, all of us working together, we can make abortion unthinkable. So thanks so much for having us. Oh, really quick, I wanted to tell you two other things. If you drop by the table, if you guys have churches that you were interested in encouraging to host Embrace Grace, we have several flyers. So one of them says, Empowered Women, Empower Women. So this just gives them the opportunity to understand how they can start an Embrace Grace group. And we also have a flyer that's called How to Start a Group. And it tells them step by step and shows them how to get plugged in and connected. And then lastly, we have a flyer that's called Strengthening Church Relationships. So some of the ideas that are in my presentation are there, but there's a whole lot more in that flyer about how to strengthen your church relationships. So that's that. Thank you.